Hello and welcome to this AZ900 Azure Fundamentals exam prep session. This session has been designed and developed to ensure your success in AZ900 exam. My name is Navneet Kumar. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and the founder of TrainCrash Technologies. I will help you with my experience of the various certifications that I have done in Microsoft into the cloud infrastructure, servers, or into the cloud automation and security. I will share that experience of those exams with you here that will help you passing your AZ900 exam. So without any further ado, let's get into the exam preparation. The very first thing that you need to look for any exam is the blueprint of it. You need to understand that what are the skills that are going to be measured in that particular exam. Here in AZ900, we have three main domains. These three domains are: number one, describe the cloud concepts, where you learn about the cloud concepts like the different cloud models, public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid cloud, or the cloud service models like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And along with that, you also learn about shared responsibility models for the management and security. Then there is next domain where Azure architecture and the Azure services like for compute, network, storage, or database services are discussed. Then finally, the third domain is into the Azure management using different management tools like Azure Portal or the Azure CLI or the PowerShell or the APIs, and the governance, which covers the identity and security management of the workloads in Azure. So this AZ900 is actually fundamental exam, but it covers the concepts of different high level role based or specialty certifications at a high level. It covers them. So it is important that we understand all these different services. We understand their use cases, the scenarios where they can be used. I have done a video on AZ900 preparation or for AZ900 course, which is actually a fast track course. In 2 hours I have completed that. You will find that video in the description. You can visit that video and gain knowledge if you are completely new to the cloud, and then you can prepare from this video and also the reference material that I will share in the description, and then you can take the exam. If you already have experience into the IT or into the cloud, you already have attended any training, or you have watched my video on AZ900 Azure Fundamental course, then this exam preparation will ensure your success in the exam. Well, in the exam you will be getting 40 to 50 questions. You will be getting 45 minutes to answer these questions. It may sound good that okay, we have only 40 to 50 questions in 45 minutes of time, and because it's a fundamental exam, so the questions will be very basic questions. But the question that you see in this example, you will see that this question can have a scenario. That scenario has been discussed, and then you have to suggest a solution or maybe a best possible solution. So sometimes we feel overwhelmed that okay, it is just a fundamental exam and we are going to clear it in the first attempt. But what happens is that the time that has been given, which is 45 minutes only, sometimes that can be a barrier. Sometimes that you might think that okay, you're not going to complete all the questions because the questions taking more time. My advice to you is that when you get such lengthy questions, so stay relaxed and uh, understand the scenario properly and then answer these questions. If the question is taking time to make sense, you you are facing difficulties in understanding the question, then you can park it for later reference and move on to the next question rather than investing too much time, because as you see that 45 minutes is a very limited time. So you need to move on to the next question and answer those questions that you feel comfortable with first, and then you can come back and then answer these questions later on. So you get that opportunity to park these questions for uh, answering them later. Well, this is one important suggestion, but yes, keep an eye on the timer, that how much time you have. Stay relaxed, read the questions properly, try to understand the questions very carefully, because sometimes the questions are a little bit tricky. They emphasize on a particular point that you will see also during this session, such questions, and then you can answer that. The purpose of doing this video is not for letting you memorize the questions and pass the exam. There is no point of that until unless you have the thorough knowledge and skills of that particular technology. So I do not emphasize on just memorizing the question and passing the exam. Take the trainings or take the e-learning material, the video that I have given, also go through that. The purpose of this video is to let you understand the pattern of questions, like what sort of questions you will be getting, because sometimes you have done the first thing very well, which is you did a very good study, maybe in the class, you attended a classroom training or some workshop, or maybe you did it yourself, but you have no idea of the pattern of questions, that what kind of questions you will be getting in the exam. So that can make it difficult, more difficult in fact, to crack the exam. So in that case, this video will be helpful for you to understand the pattern of these questions, and I'll keep giving you the tips and tricks in between this session. So watch this video till the end and follow me during this video on getting all those tips and tricks to take your exam. Microsoft practice test exams are also there on MS Learn website. So if I take you to this AZ900 MS Learn, so here you will see the the key areas for the skills that it will measure for, describe the cloud concepts, architecture, and this, and you will see the resources over here that you can launch the sandbox to have some hands-on experience, or you can take the practice assessment. So you can take a practice assessment from here to solidify your information that you have gained from the trainings or from self-learning. Well, let's get back to the question again. Coming to the question, so these questions will not only give you an idea about the pattern of exam, what kind of questions will be there in the exam, but also will help you understanding the different use cases of the services. So even if you are not planning to take the exam, but still this can help into gaining the knowledge about the Azure services and how these services can be used in different scenarios. Well, I highly recommend that you take the exam to prove your skills, or to uh, you know provide the credentials to your employers that you have taken this certification and you have knowledge and skills about the Azure cloud services. Well, let's look into the very first question. This question says that your company has a data center in Los Angeles and New York and a Microsoft Azure subscription. You are configuring the two data centers as geo-clustered sites for site resiliency and need to recommend an Azure Storage redundancy option based on the following requirements. The first requirement is that data must be stored on multiple nodes. Next is data must be stored on nodes in separate geographic locations. Locations must be different. Third one is data can be read from the secondary location as well as from the primary location. So we want that we can read the data, read operations we can perform from the secondary location. Which of the following Azure storage redundancy options should you recommend? We have different storage redundancy options for storage accounts. Number one is geo redundant storage. Number two is read only geo redundant storage, RAGRS, it is also referred as. Number three is zone redundant storage. And number four is locally redundant storage. These are your four options: GRS, RAGRS, ZRS, and LRS. So you can guess the correct answer and put it in the comment. If we look for the correct answer, the correct answer is B, which is read only geo redundant storage. If we look into the requirement, we want to read the data also from the secondary location. So first thing, the second bullet point, if you notice that the data need not only to be distributed across the nodes but in separate geographic locations. So that means geo redundant storage we need, where 3 copies remain in the primary region of Azure and 3 copies are replicated asynchronously to the secondary region. For an instance, if your data center is in your storage account is in East US, it will go to the West US. So that is number one. Number two is that you need to perform read operations from the secondary location, maybe for auditing purpose, maybe for reporting purpose, or maybe to perform read operations for the clients that are to the nearby location in that secondary region. But the write operations, of course, will take place in the primary region. So primary will support read write and secondary will go with read only. So read only geo redundant storage you will be going with. Okay, so read access, geo redundant, or read only, you can say. Yeah, so that's RAGRS. Then the next question is, your company's Azure subscription includes a basic support plan. They would like to request an assessment of an Azure environment's design from Microsoft. This functionality is not supported by the existing plan. You want to ensure that the company subscribes to a support plan that allows this functionality while keeping expenses to a minimum. So this is where we are emphasizing as well that we need to keep the expenses to a minimum. There can be multiple plans which supports this. Then you recommend that the company subscribes to the professional direct support plan. Does the solution meet the goal? You can put the answer in the comment box. The correct answer is B, which is no. The professional direct support plan is more expensive than the other options that we have available. So it is not necessary for the goal to obtain the design assessment only. It is the expenses that we need to keep to the minimum as well. So in this case, we have a different plan, and this question actually comes from an area where there are the multiple scenarios that are given to you. Scenario is one, actually solutions are given, suggested different. So in these type of questions, you will not be able to go back to the previous question. That is also one important thing in this. You will be getting 4 or 5 questions in the exam like this. So there will be single scenario but multiple solutions, different solutions. Coming to the correct solutions, there can be one or more than one even, or maybe there is none of the solution correct in that section of the exam. So that is what this makes this section tricky. You will be getting some time for this, and then in this section the thing is that you cannot go back to the previous question once you have answered. So later if you realize, oh, this was the correct, the previous one was the correct, no, you don't have the choice to go back. Well, Let's look for the next question. And this is, you are tasked with deploying Azure Virtual Machines for your company. You need to make use of the appropriate cloud deployment solution. You should make use of software as a service. Then, does this solution meet the goal? You can put your answer in the comment box. And the correct answer is no, because Azure Virtual Machines are not the software as a service solution. There will be, more questions with this same scenario. You are tasked with deploying Azure Virtual Machines for your company. Then you need to make use of the appropriate cloud deployment solution. So you go with pass. Is this the correct answer? Does this meet the goal? You can put your answer in the comment. The correct answer is no. This virtual machine is not the part of PaaS also. So neither SaaS nor PaaS. Let's look into the next question. It is from the same scenario. You are tasked with deploying Azure Virtual Machines for your company. You need to make use of appropriate cloud deployment solution. You should make use of infrastructure as a service this time. Does this solution meet the goal? And you can put your answer in the comment. Before I show you the correct answer, the correct answer is yes. When you create the virtual machines or the infrastructure components like the virtual network or the virtual hard disk for its storage, they all come under the infrastructure as a service, where you can deploy the operating system of your choice, the middleware products and the applications, legacy softwares or the less popular operating systems you need to run. So you go with virtual machines. This comes under IaaS type of service model. Next question is, your developers have created 10 web applications that must be hosted on Azure. You need to determine which Azure web tier plan to host the web apps. The web tier plan must meet these requirements. The web app will use custom domains, number 1. Number 2, the web applications each require 10 gig of storage. The web applications must each run in dedicated compute instance. Load balancing between instances must be included and cost must be minimized. Look at the final point. So we want custom domains. We do not want to go with that default domain that is provided, which is azurewebsites.net with that suffix. We want to have our own domain. 10 gig storage is fine, but we also don't want shared compute. We want dedicated compute for the virtual machines. We want load balancing. So which web tier plan should you use? Basic, standard, free, shared, which plan? Put your answer in the comment box. And the correct answer is A, standard plan. If you are looking for custom domains, the standard plan supports them. You can use custom domains. If we are looking for storage, so the standard and basic plans provide sufficient storage also, and the standard plan offers the 50 gig of storage per web application. Okay. Number 3 is the dedicated compute instance. So both the standard and basic plans allow the dedicated compute instances. Finally, the load balancing. The standard plan includes the load balancing features, while the basic plan does not provide advanced load balancing options. That's why we cannot go with basic. That's why the basic is eliminated from this. Next question is, you are planning to migrate a company to Azure. Each of the company's numerous divisions will have an administrator in place to manage the Azure resources used by their respective divisions. You want to ensure that the Azure deployment you employ allows for Azure to be segmented for the divisions while keeping administrative efforts to a minimum. What you do in this case, you plan to make use of several Azure Active Directories, multiple Active Directory tenants. Does that provide the solution? You can put your answer in the comment box. So let's look for the correct answer. and this is no. We will look for these solutions further, these scenarios with other solutions, and there we will see that what can be the correct solution for this scenario. Next is your developers have created a web portal for users in Miami branch office. The web app will be publicly accessible and used by Miami users to retrieve customer and product information. The web app is currently running in an on-premises test environment. You plan to host the web application on Azure. You need to determine which Azure web tier plan to host the web application. The web tier plan must meet the following requirements. The website will use miami.wayland.com, so that means it is going to use the custom domain. The website will be deployed to 2 instances, so I want the scale out capabilities. SSL support must also be there. The website requires 12 gig of storage and cost must be minimized. Which web tier plan should you use? Standard, basic, free, or shared? You can put your answer in the comment box. Let's look the correct answer, and that is standard tier. Recently we discussed the features of standard tier. I mentioned 50 gig of storage we get with that. Next question is, your company is planning to migrate all their virtual machines to the Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. The virtual machines are currently hosted on the Hyper-V hosts in the data center. You are required to ensure that the intended Azure solution uses the correct expenditure model. Solution: you should recommend the use of the elastic expenditure model. Does the solution meet the goal? Yes or no? The correct answer is no. It does not meet this goal. We will look for the correct solution. Now the same scenario, but this time the solution is different. You should recommend the use of a scalable expenditure model. Does that solution meet the goal? Put your answer in the comment box. Let's see the correct answer, and this is no. It is also not the correct solution. Again we have the same scenario, and the solution is this time you should recommend the use of operational expenditure model. So we are going with pay as you go. We will pay only for whatever we will utilize. Does the solution meet the goal? Put your answer in the comment box. And the correct answer is yes. The operational expenditure, also referred as OPEX, is indeed applicable to the Azure's pay-as-you-go subscriptions. In this model, costs are treated as the operational expenses, which aligns with the consumption-based pricing model offered by Azure. Companies using the pay-as-you-go subscriptions can scale resources up or down based on their requirements. Next question is, you are required to deploy an artificial intelligence solution in Azure. You want to make sure that you are able to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics for the solution. You should make use of the Azure Cosmos DB. Does that meet the solution or the requirement? Put your answer in the comment box, and the answer is no. Azure Cosmos DB is a NoSQL service, but not a data analytics service, or for predictive analytics. You're not going to use it for AI and ML purpose. Next question is, your company's Active Directory forest includes thousands of user accounts. You have been informed that all network resources will be migrated to Azure. Thereafter, the on-premises data centers will be retired. You are required to employ a strategy that reduces the effect on users once the planned migration has been completed. The solution you suggest is that you plan to sync all Active Directory user accounts to Azure Active Directory. Does the solution meet the goal? Put your answer in the comments. Let's look for the correct answer, and this is yes. So syncing all the Active Directory user accounts to Azure Active Directory using the Azure AD Connect tool or Entra ID Connect tool, today we call this Azure AD Intra ID, is a widely accepted strategy that is used for minimizing the impact of users during a migration to Azure. You are required to deploy an artificial intelligence solution. You want to make sure that you are able to build, test, and deploy predictive analytics for the solution. This time, the solution you offer is Azure Machine Learning Studio. Does this solution meet the goal? Yes or no? Put your answer in the comment section. And the correct answer is yes. Azure Machine Learning Studio provides you the workspace where you can build, test, and deploy the predictive analytics in Azure. Your company's infrastructure includes a number of business units that each need a large number of various Azure resources for everyday operations. The resources required by each business unit are identical. You are required to sanction a strategy to create Azure resources automatically. You recommend that Azure API Management Service be included in the strategy. Does the solution meet the goal? Yes or no? Put your answer in the comment section. Let's see the correct answer. It is no. Let's look for another solution. You recommend that management groups be included in the strategy. What do you think? Yes or no? Let's look for the correct answer. It's also no. Okay, this time you recommend that the Azure Resource Manager templates, ARM templates, be included in the strategy. Let's look for the correct answer, and it is yes, because ARM templates are designed to automate the deployment and configuration of Azure resources. This is used for infrastructure as code deployment. They allow you to define the infrastructure and services you need in a JSON file. You declare everything. It is actually used for declarative approach, which can be repeatedly used to create the same set of resources. You can repeat them again and again. So reusability is one of the benefit of using the ARM templates. So correct answer is ARM templates. You are tasked with deploying a critical line of business application which will be installed on the virtual machines to Azure. You are informed that the application deployment strategy should allow for a guaranteed availability of 99.99%. You need to make sure that the strategy requires as little virtual machines and availability zones as possible. You provide the solution, that is, you include 2 virtual machines and 1 availability zone in your strategy. What do you think? Does this meet the goal? Yes or no? Let's look for the correct answer. It is no. It does not meet that, because you are putting all the virtual machines, even both virtual machines, you have put in the same facility, same availability zones. This time you provided the solution as you include 1 virtual machine and 2 availability zones in your strategy. What is your answer? It must be no, because it is not in fact making sense to put 1 virtual machine into 2 different facilities. How it can be placed? 1 virtual machine can be placed in 1 zone only. Next solution is, for the same scenario, you include 2 virtual machines in 2 availability zones in your strategy. Does the solution meet the goal? Your answer must be yes, because if you want 4.9 of high availability, then you need to put 2 virtual machines into 2 different availability zones and put them behind a standard load balancer to meet this or to qualify this requirement of 4.9. For 3.9.5, you can go with availability set. Within the single facility, you can deploy them in different fault domains and update domains. And if you go without availability set, then you get 3.9 of high availability when you create the virtual machines with premium SSD. If you create the virtual machine single instance with standard SSD, you get 3.9 of SLA, whereas 2.9 99.5 SLA you get. And if you go with the standard HDD, then you get only 95%, 19.5 of SLA. So to qualify for 4.9, you need two virtual machines deployed in different availability zones. The next question is, your company's developers intend to deploy a large number of custom virtual machines on weekly basis. They will also be removing these virtual machines during the same week they are deployed. 60% of virtual machines have Windows Server 2016 installed, while the other 40% have Ubuntu Linux installed. You are required to make sure that the administrative efforts needed for this process is reduced by employing a suitable Azure service. The solution you recommend is to use the Microsoft managed desktop. Does the solution meet the goal? Yes or no? And the answer is no. Microsoft Managed Desktop is actually designed to simplify the management of Windows 10 devices and their associated infrastructure, but not for this scenario. The next solution for this same scenario that you present is you recommend the use of Azure reserved virtual machines instances. Does the solution meet the goal? And the answer is no. The reserved virtual machine instances are designed to offer the cost savings by committing the use for specific time, let's say 1 year or 3 year term, and you make upfront purchase to save the cost. So this does not meet the goal. The another solution that you present is you recommend the use of Azure Dev Test Labs. Does the solution meet the goal? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. Azure Dev Test Lab is a service in Microsoft Azure that is especially designed to manage and automate the creation and deployment of virtual machines for development and testing purpose only. That is why this meets the goal. Your company has virtual machines hosted in Microsoft Azure. The VMs are located in single Azure virtual network named VNet1. The company has users that work remotely. The remote workers require access to the virtual machines on VNet1. You need to provide access for the remote workers. What should you do in that case? The site-to-site VPN, VNet to VNet, point-to-site VPN, or direct access in 2012, or multi-site VPN? What is your answer? The correct answer is the point-to-site VPN. This point-to-site VPN is also referred as client-to-site VPN sometime. And this type of VPN allows the individual remote users to securely connect to the Azure Virtual Network from their devices from any network over the internet they can inject a VPN connection to this virtual network gateway deployed in Azure. So they can connect from anywhere because they are remote users. They will not be connecting from your on-premises. If the scenario was for on-premises that they have to connect from the on-prem network, your corporate network, then it will be site-to-site VPN. You have been informed by your superior of the company's intention to automate server deployment to Azure. There is, however, some concern that administrative credentials could be uncovered during this process. You are required to make sure that during the deployment, the administrative credentials are encrypted using the suitable Azure solution. You recommend to use the Azure Information Protection. Does this meet the goal? Your answer must be no. This is not the solution. Okay. You recommend the use of Azure multi-factor authentication? Your answer must be no for this, because multi-factor authentication is a second factor authentication to protect your Entra ID accounts, but not for this solution. You configure the use of Azure AD Identity Protection. Does that meet the goal? Your answer must be no. Azure AD Identity Protection is a machine learning based solution to detect the unusual authentication patterns. So this is not the correct answer. I have done the videos on all these topics that I have discussed so far in these questions, be it point to site VPN, the Azure AD identity protection, multi-factor authentications. I will put the links in the description, you will find, and you can visit those videos to see these features in action, and that will also solidify your knowledge on these concepts and will prepare you for the exam. Okay, your company has the Azure Active Directory environment. Users occasionally connect to Azure AD via internet. You have been tasked with making sure that users who connect to the Azure AD via internet from the unidentified IP address are automatically encouraged to change the passwords. You configure the use of Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. Does that meet the goal? Your answer must be no, because the privileged identity management is used for time bound access to provide to the users. I also have done a video on that, you will find the link in the description. And I have done in fact an entire series on Entra ID security features, you can visit that series. Next is, you are planning a strategy to deploy numerous web servers and database servers to Azure. This strategy should allow for connection types between the web servers and database servers to be controlled. You include network security groups in your strategy, and your answer is yes. Between the web servers and database servers, you can control the security. You can do it with the help of NSGs. Okay, the previous question, if I go to this question about the clients connecting from the internet from unidentified IP address, and they must be encouraged to change their passwords. So in this case, if, because I'm not sure that whether this question will be repeated again and you must be looking for a solution. So the conditional access policies are used to define the conditions, and based on particular conditions it can secure your cloud applications. So correct answer will be conditional access policy there. You are planning a strategy to deploy numerous web servers and database servers. This is the same scenario, but solution is you include the local network gateway in your strategy. No, it is not the answer, because local network gateway is used for establishing the site to site VPN configuration. There we need to put the local VPN servers configuration on this local network gateway in the cloud. Okay, your next question is, your company's Active Directory forest includes thousands of user accounts. You have been informed that the network resources will be migrating to Azure. Thereafter, the on-premises data centers will be retired. You are required to employ a strategy that reduces the effect on users once the planned migration has been completed. Solution, you plan to require Azure multi-factor authentication. We have discussed this scenario already, but this is a different solution that we have seen this time. So the answer is no, it does not meet this goal. Earlier we discussed that using AD Connect we synchronize the identities, all identities to the cloud. You have an on-premises network that contains several servers. You plan to migrate all the servers to Azure. You need to recommend a solution to ensure that some of the servers are available if a single Azure data center goes offline for an extended period. What should you include in the recommendation? The fault tolerance, elasticity, scalability, or low latency? And your answer must be A, which is fault tolerance. When it comes to the high availability, we do it through the fault tolerance. Elasticity, scalability are the options to scale up or down or out and in, or low latency is something completely irrelevant in this case. So it will be fault tolerance to ensure the high availability. Your company plans to migrate all its data and resources to Azure. The company's migration plan states that only platform as a service solutions must be used in Azure. You need to deploy an Azure environment that meets the company's migration plan. So you create an Azure App Service and Azure SQL database. Does that meet the goal? Yes. You have App Service and SQL, both are the platform as a service. The SQL database is also known as database as a service, Azure SQL. The same scenario but different solution. This time you use Azure App Service and the Azure Virtual Machine that has the database running on it. So Azure Virtual Machine means it's a infrastructure as a service. It cannot be purely a PaaS solution. Answer will be no. Well, the same scenario and another solution that you suggest for PaaS solutions to use to migrate your applications and storage to the cloud is creating the Azure App Service and the Azure Storage account. And your answer must be yes, because the Azure App Service and Storage account both are the managed services. We're not leveraging the virtual machines here. Next question is, your company hosts an accounting application named App1 that is used by all the customers of the company. App1 has low usage during the first 3 weeks of each month and very high usage during the last week of each month. Which benefit of Azure Cloud Service supports cost management for this type of usage pattern? High availability, high latency, elasticity, or load balancing? And your answer must be C, that is elasticity. That is what we can do in the cloud, that we can scale up or scale down or scale out or scale in our resources. We can change them based on the pattern, the trend that we see of the usage of these services. Elasticity in the Azure Cloud Services refers to the ability of dynamically scaling the resources up or down based on the demand. This feature is particularly used for managing the cost and performance based on varying usage patterns. You plan to migrate a web application to Azure. The web application is associated by external users, will be accessed by external users. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative effort used to manage the web application. What should you include in the recommendation? SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, or DaaS? Have a look at this requirement. You are going to migrate the web application to the Azure, and the web application is accessed by the external users. It need to be a public facing application. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution to minimize the amount of administrative effort. So if you go with IaaS, you will get increased administrative efforts, okay, because you need to manage the virtual machines or underlying infra. For SaaS, you do not have the option to develop your applications. You get the predefined applications to use. Database as a service, no. It will be platform as a service that you will be using to host your application. So answer will be PaaS. Next question is, you have an on-premises network that contains 100 servers. You need to recommend a solution that provides additional resources to your users. The solution must minimize capital and operational expenditure cost. What should you include in the recommendation? A complete migration to the public cloud, an additional data center, a private cloud, or a hybrid cloud. Look at the requirement that you have on-prem network which has already 100 servers, and you need to recommend the solution that provide additional resources to the users. Additional resources we need to offer to the users, and it should minimize the capital and operational expenditure. So it will be the hybrid cloud that will help in this case. Next question is, you plan to migrate several servers from an on-premises network to Azure. What is an advantage of using a public cloud service for the servers over an on-premises network? A public cloud is owned by the public, not a private corporation. Option B is the public cloud is a crowd sourcing solution that provides corporations with the ability to enhance the cloud. Option C, all public cloud resources can be freely accessed by every member of the public. Option D is the public cloud is a shared entity whereby multiple corporations each use a portion of the resources in the cloud. So basically the public cloud is a model where we are sharing the entities, okay, multiple corporations can use them, okay, the portion of that cloud. So Correct answer will be the D, that the public cloud is a shared entity whereby multiple corporations each use a portion of the resources in the cloud. Why will we not go with the first one? The public cloud is owned by the public, not a private corporation. No, it is owned by private corporation, maybe Microsoft for Azure or Amazon for AWS or Google Cloud. So they are owned by private organizations but consumed by public. The public cloud, option B, if we see why we have eliminated, the public cloud is crowdsourcing solution. No, it's not sourced from the crowd that provides the corporations with the ability to enhance the cloud. No. All public cloud resources can be freely accessed. No, all services are not free. Some services can be available for free. In which type of cloud model are all the hardware resources owned by a third party and shared between multiple tenants? Private, hybrid, or public? Your answer must be public. You have 1000 virtual machines hosted on Hyper-V host in data center. You plan to migrate all the virtual machines to the Azure pay-as-you-go subscription. You need to identify which expenditure model to use for the planned Azure solution. Which expenditure model should you identify? Operational, elastic, capital, or scalable? You must look for the operational. Your company has on-premises network that contains multiple servers. The company plans to reduce the following administrative responsibilities like backing up applications data, replacing failed server hardware, managing physical server security, updating server operating systems, managing permissions to shared documents. The company plans to migrate servers to Azure Virtual Machines. You need to identify which administrative responsibilities will be eliminated after the planned migration. Which two responsibilities should you identify? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Each correct selection is worth 1 point as well. So number one is option A, replacing failed server hardware. Option B, backing up application data. Option C, managing physical server security. Option D, updating server operating systems. Option E, managing permissions to shared documents. And the correct answers are A and C. Replacing failed servers hardware is not your responsibility now. C, if we look, managing physical server security, not our responsibility. But backing our applications, updating our server operating systems of the virtual machines, and managing permissions to the shared folders is our responsibility. So A and C are the correct answers. You plan to provision infrastructure as a service resource in Azure. Which resource is an example of IaaS? An Azure web app, virtual machine, logic app, SQL database. Now that we have discussed too much about the IaaS, so you must be comfortable with that the Azure virtual machine is an example of IaaS. The Azure web app is a PaaS solution, logic app is a PaaS solution, which is a serverless application, and then the SQL database, Azure SQL database, is also a PaaS solution. To which cloud model can you deploy physical servers? Private cloud or hybrid cloud, both? Private cloud only, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and public cloud, or hybrid cloud only? So private cloud and hybrid cloud only is the correct answer. Option A, because in hybrid cloud you have some on-premises servers as well. You have 50 virtual machines hosted on-premises and 50 virtual machines hosted in Azure. The on-premises virtual machines and the Azure virtual machines connect to each other. Which type of cloud model is this? So hybrid, private, or public? Of course, this is going to be hybrid. Your company plans to migrate all its data and resources to Azure. The company's migration plan states that only platform as a service PaaS solution must be used in Azure. You need to deploy an Azure environment that meets the company's migration plan. Solution: you create Azure virtual machines, Azure SQL database, and Azure storage account. Does this meet the goal? Yes or no? For platform as a service, you have created virtual machine, so answer must be no. Well, Your company plans to deploy several custom applications to Azure. The applications will provide invoicing service to the customers of the company. Each application will have several prerequisites, applications, and services installed. You need to recommend a cloud deployment solution for all the applications. What should you recommend in this case? So it will be infrastructure as a service, because you may not have that custom applications requirement sufficed by the SaaS offering or maybe PaaS offering. Your company plans to migrate all its data to Azure. The company's migration plan states that only platform as a service solution must be used in Azure. You need to deploy an Azure environment that meets the company's migration plan. What should you create? Azure Virtual Machine, Azure SQL? No, that does not meet PaaS. An Azure App Service and Azure Virtual Machine? No. An App Service and Azure SQL Database? Yes, that both are the PaaS services. Azure Storage Account and Web Server in Azure Virtual Machine? Again, Virtual Machine, so no. So, correct answer will be C. What does a customer provide in software as a service model? Application data, data storage, compute resource, or application software? So this is going to be application data. As far as the data storage is concerned, the SaaS provider offers that. Compute, SaaS provider will offer. Application software, SaaS provider has developed and designed that application. What is the first stage in Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure? Adopt the cloud, make a plan, ready your organization, or define your strategy. First thing you need to do is define your strategy. So option D is the correct answer. You have an accounting application named App1 that uses the legacy database. You plan to move App1 to the cloud. Which service model should you use? That will be infrastructure as a service. Before a while, in one of the explanation, I told you that if you have some less popular operating systems or legacy applications, middleware products to run, for which you do not have SaaS or PaaS solutions available, then you have to rely on infrastructure as a service. Deploy your virtual machines and deploy the required hardware or the middleware products. Not hardware, excuse me, the operating system or the middleware products. Yeah. Which cloud computing model includes on-premises and cloud-based resources? We have discussed it many times, so this must be hybrid. Which term represents the ability to increase the computing capacity of the virtual machine by adding more memory or CPU? That is vertical scaling, where we increase the size of the VM or decrease that. So scale up or down, we call it. Horizontal is actually scale out or in, where we increase the instances, not the size or capacity of the VM. So this is going to be vertical scaling or resizing, you can say. You are resizing your virtual machine instance, scaling it up or down. What are two benefits of cloud computing? Each correct answer represents a complete solution. Note, each correct answer or selection is worth 1 point in this. Enables the rapid provisioning of resources, has increased administrative complexities, has the same configuration options as on-premises, or shift capital expenditure to operating expenditure. So answers will be A and D, because it enables rapid deployment of the resources and it shifts the capex to the opex. We go with pay as you go. Whatever we utilize, we pay for that. We do not invest the amount immediately. Has increased administrative complexities? No. Has same configuration options as on-premises? No. Cloud works differently than the on-premises. What is a feature of an Azure Virtual Network? Resource cost analysis, packet inspection, geo-redundancy, isolation and segmentation. Isolation and segmentation is done through the virtual network. That's your logical network representation in the cloud. Which cloud computing benefit provides continuous user access to a cloud-based application with minimal downtime? Agility, scalability, elasticity, or high availability? Of course, it's HA, high availability. You need to identify the type of failure for which the Azure availability zone can be used to protect access to Azure services. A physical server failure, But that we can tolerate with availability sets also. As your region failure, no, that's regional outage. So all the availability zones will have an outage. Storage failure, no. As your data center failure, yes. And as your data center failure will be the correct answer. You plan to deploy several Azure virtual machines. You need to ensure that the services running on virtual machines are available if single data center fails. Solution that you provide, you deploy the virtual machines to two or more resource groups. Does that meet the goal? No. Resource group is just a logical container to contain the resources. It does not offer the high availability. You plan to deploy several virtual machines. This is the same scenario. The solution that you provide this time is you deploy virtual machines to scale sets. Does that meet the goal? No. In a way, it may also, or it may sound that okay, we can use the scale sets for this, but it is not the correct answer because scale set is for the scaling purpose. Okay, next question is, this question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. Resource groups provide organizations with the ability to manage the compliance and Azure resources across multiple subscriptions. Instructions, review the underlying text if it makes the statement correct, and select no change if no change is needed if the statement is incorrect. Select the answer choice that makes the statement correct. So you need to select the correct option. What provides this sort of feature that was mentioned in the first line? The question requires this, okay, that you have seen. Resource groups provide organizations with the ability to manage the compliance of Azure resources across the multiple subscriptions. So we have different subscriptions where the resources have been stored and we want to meet the compliance. So they act as a resource group for them. So these are actually the management groups, which are the topmost containers in this hierarchy of Azure. So we have on top management groups which manage or organize the subscriptions. Then subscriptions have the resource groups have the resources. That is the order: management group, then subscription, and then resource group, and then the resources. MSRR: management group, subscription, resource group, and resources. Your company plans to migrate to Azure. The company has several departments. All the Azure resources used by each department will be managed by a department administrator. What are two possible techniques to segment Azure for departments? Each correct answer presents a complete solution. Each correct solution is worth 1 point. Multiple subscriptions or multiple Azure ED directories, multiple regions or multiple resource groups. And your answers will be the multiple subscriptions can solve this problem, or you can create multiple resource groups within a single subscription and delegate the access to different people or department administrators to that resource group. So by the name of the department, you can create resource groups and organize the resources. You have an Azure environment that contains multiple Azure virtual machines. You plan to implement a solution that enables the client computers on your on-premises network to communicate with the Azure virtual machines. You need to recommend which Azure resources must be created for the planned solution. Which two Azure resources should you include in the recommendation? Each correct answer presents part of the solution, and each correct selection is worth 1 point. Option A: virtual network gateway, a load balancer, an application gateway, a virtual network, and a gateway subnet. And the correct answer is A and E, which is a virtual network gateway and a gateway subnet we require to deploy. So very first thing we do in a virtual network, we create a gateway subnet, which is a special subnet where we put our virtual network gateways. Second thing after that we do is we deploy a virtual network gateway to provide this hybrid connectivity. You attempt to create several managed Microsoft SQL Server instances in Azure environment and receive a message that you must increase your Azure subscriptions limit. What should you do to increase the service limit? Create a service health alert, upgrade your support plan, modify an Azure policy, or create a support request. Simply create a support request to Microsoft to increase the soft quota limits. So option D is the correct answer. Your company plans to move several servers to Azure. The company's compliance policy states that server named Fin server must be on a separate network segment. You are evaluating which Azure services can be used to meet the compliance policy requirements. Which Azure solution must you recommend? A resource group for Fin server and another resource group for all other servers. A virtual network for Fin server and another virtual network for all other servers. A VPN for Fin server and virtual network gateway for each other server, or one resource group for all servers and a resource log for Fin server. Correct answer will be the B, because the virtual network will do the segmentation, a virtual network for Fin server and another virtual network for all the other servers. I hope these questions have given you a fair idea that what sort of questions can be there in the exam, and do not expect that same questions will be there in the exam. This was just to show you the pattern of questions, but yes, there will be the questions around these concepts, the topics we discussed so far in this. The objective of this session was to take you through the questions, to help you understand the pattern of questions, and what are the things that you need to take care. And I have done separate videos. As I mentioned, you will find the links in the description box. I wish you all the best for your exams, for your certifications, and do let me know in the comment section if you need any support, any assistance from my end, and I'll be happy to assist you. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe my channel for more videos and the content on the IT services and the concepts, especially into the Microsoft's technology stack. Thank you once again.